Hello and welcome to this video on the top 5 most common mistakes made in exploratory factor analysis. My name is Geiser, I'm an instructor with QuantFish. In this video I want to talk about the top 5 mistakes that researchers make when they apply exploratory factor analysis so that you can avoid those mistakes. Number 1, not actually using exploratory factor analysis. And you might think, what? What is he talking about? I'm doing EFA and I'm not doing EFA? What is this about? So this is actually something that many people run into without even noticing it, that they actually apply what is known as principal component analysis, or PCA, rather than exploratory factor analysis. And this happens because some software programs such as SPSS have a default setting where when you choose the exploratory factor analysis option in SPSS, you actually get principal component analysis. Now, principal component analysis is in a way similar to exploratory factor analysis and sometimes leads to results that are pretty similar to EFA. However, it's not really EFA. It does not extract common factors and it is based on a different mathematical model. So pay attention to that and make sure PCA is actually what you want if you use the SPSS defaults. If not, then you have to change them and then you have to tell SPSS or some other program, hey, I want to actually do, for example, maximum likelihood factor analysis or some other method that is actually an exploratory factor analysis method. Second, and that is something that I see very, very commonly done, that individuals apply exploratory factor analysis to binary or ordinal variables. So they factor analyze item level data, which often makes sense because that's what they have. They want to find out which items are good for my scale, or they want to find out which items measure which factor. So they use item level data, and item level data from questionnaires are typically not metrical or interval scale, but rather they are ordinal. They are measured on a Likert scale, let's say a 4, 5, maybe 6-point Likert scale. Or sometimes we have binary items, test items or questionnaire items that are scored right, wrong, or yes, no. And so then these variables surely are not even close to being interval scale. And so when you run, for example, a maximum likelihood exploratory factor analysis in SPSS or some other program, then the assumption is that the variables are interval scale, and SPSS will use Pearson correlations, so product moment correlations, as the basis for the analysis. However, those Pearson correlations are not appropriate for binary or ordinal variables. Those may be misleading, and as a result, the factor structure that will be extracted based on those Pearson correlations may be distorted and may be misleading. What you should do for binary and ordinal variables is use an estimation method that is appropriate for those types of variables and that use the proper correlation coefficients for binary and ordinal variables. Now, what are the proper correlation coefficients? For binary variables, those are tetrachoric correlations. For ordinal variables with more than 2 categories, those would be so-called polychoric correlation coefficients. So those types of correlation coefficients are latent correlations that estimate the relationships that we would have observed had the variables been continuous or metrical. So it's basically an estimate in a first step of what the correlations should have looked like or would be expected to look like if you could have measured the variables on an interval scale. So this is very important, and the problem is that many programs for EFA don't offer that option. So for example, in SPSS, currently there's no such option that will allow you to switch to an estimation method that uses tetrachoric or polychoric correlations, and SPSS will treat your variables as if they were interval scale, even when they're just binary or ordinal. Now, why is this a problem? It's a problem because you might obtain solutions with, for example, spurious factors. So items that are similarly skewed might load on the same factor. They might make up a factor even if they don't measure the same factor. So this could be misleading, and therefore it is critical that you use proper methods. Now, there are programs that will allow you to use a factor analysis for ordinal variables. For example, in Mplus, you can do something like that. Also in the Lavaan package in R, there are now packages that are point and click, so syntax free, that implement Lavaan, such as Jamovi and JASP. And in some of those programs, you can find also factor analysis for ordinal variables now using WLSMV estimation or DWLS estimation. So it's a robust weighted least squares estimator that is appropriate for binary and ordinal variables, and that will also automatically use the right types of correlations such as tetrachoric or polychoric correlations. So keep that in mind. Number 3, one other common mistake is made when selecting the number of factors. So one very simple and historically frequently used criterion is the so-called Geiser criterion, according to which factors with an eigenvalue greater than or equal to 1 are being retained. So the eigenvalue greater 1 or greater than equal to 1 criterion is a very simple criterion. However, it often leads to too many factors or the wrong number of factors in any case. So this is something that's typically a bad factor selection, factor retention criterion. What are better criteria? Looking at a scree plot and looking at a characteristic point on the scree plot, if any, where the curve of the eigenvalues flattens out and they become very similar and very in size and very small. That can be helpful, or even better, conducting parallel analysis where the distribution of the eigenvalues of the real data is compared to an eigenvalue distribution obtained from random data that have no correlations in the underlying population. Many programs will now allow you to do this. For example, in the free programs JASP, J-A-S-P, and Jamovi, you can very easily, routinely get the scree plot and also the scree plot in the same graph for the parallel analysis. So that's very nice that this is readily available. Also Mplus has that. When you use exploratory factor analysis in Mplus, it will also give you the option of conducting a parallel analysis, and that's better. Other criteria are fit statistics, such as a chi-square test of model fit in maximum likelihood factor analysis that can test a model, and you can also do chi-square difference tests against models with fewer factors or more factors. So there are a bunch of fit statistics that are better than that Geiser criterion. Fourth, and that's also a very, very frequent mistake, in my opinion, is that an orthogonal factor rotation is preferred or is chosen, such as, for example, Varimax. That is often not a good idea because it leaves the factors uncorrelated, which is typically unrealistic. So typically we have at least some amount of correlation between our factors extracted in an EFA. And so when you force the factors to be uncorrelated by conducting an orthogonal factor rotation such as Varimax, then your loading structure may be suboptimal. You may fail to obtain a simple structure of factor loadings that you want. So simple structure meaning that variables load highly only on one factor, not on other factors. When factors are correlated and you force them to be uncorrelated, this impacts the factor loading structure and the simple structure of the loadings, and oftentimes it will not be as interpretable. It will be a solution that will be less realistic because, as I said, factors tend to be at least somewhat correlated in practice, so leaving them uncorrelated or forcing them to be uncorrelated often leads to an unrealistic solution. It's better to use oblique rotation, such as Promax, for example, or Oblimin, which will result in correlated factors. Now, factors don't have to be correlated, so if they really are uncorrelated in practice, then an oblique rotation will not change that. It will not force the factors to be correlated, so that will then simply be a result of the analysis. However, oblique rotation is less restrictive in terms of its interpretation and its loading structure. Often you will get a better simple structure when you choose an oblique rotation method and not something like Varimax. Number 5, also a common problem is that people get confused over pattern versus structure matrix. Now, this is only a distinction when you have an oblique rotation. When you use Varimax and you use orthogonal rotation, you won't have this issue because then there will be only one type of factor loading matrix. However, with oblique rotation, since factors can be correlated and since variables can load onto multiple factors, even if some of the loadings are close to 0, we have two different types of matrices. We have a pattern matrix, which consists of the factor loadings that are partial regression coefficients, because now with oblique rotation, our variables load on correlated factors, and therefore the factor loadings are not correlations between the variable and the factor, but they indicate partial regression coefficients like in a multiple regression analysis. And those are the ones that you typically want to use for factor interpretation. You want to focus on the pattern matrix, which has the partial regression coefficients. Now, of note, some of these can be greater than 1 because partial regression coefficients, even standardized ones, are not required to be between -1 and +1 like correlation coefficients. So don't be confused if in a pattern matrix you find a factor loading above 1. It's not a problem. It's not, or not necessarily indicative of a problem, and often is a valid estimate. Now then, what is the structure matrix? The structure matrix gives the correlations between a variable and its factor. And when you have oblique factors or correlated factors, then often you'll find correlations with multiple factors. So in the structure matrix, you will have, for a given variable, higher values on multiple factors. And therefore, the structure matrix doesn't make it as easy to interpret the factor structure and the loading pattern. And so the interpretation, therefore, is typically focused on the pattern matrix, not the structure matrix. I hope you found this video useful to learn about the top 5 mistakes made in exploratory factor analysis so you can avoid them. My name is Geiser. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.